Hi, and welcome back to the BoxCast podcast. We are so excited for today's episode. I'm Danielle.
And I'm Gary, not Josh or Wade, just to make sure everybody knows that here.
Yes.
Okay? All right, thank you.
And today, we're going to talk about the biggest issues you encounter when live streaming.
The biggest issues.
The biggest issues. Like, oh my gosh, how annoying is that issue?
You mean like the guy who walks in front of you as you're live streaming issues?
Yeah, the guy who starts aggressively coughing next to the camera. Yeah, that guy.
Those?
The baby running,
the
screaming.
Baby, yes, I've had that.
I mean, the baby, it doesn't know. It's okay.
My favorite one is where the guy lifts his hands up in the middle of a worship service for church and you get the fingertips in the video. Or the guy who walks like right up to the camera and he's like, hey, guys, what's going on? You know, and just goes one of those. Like,
yeah.
Bro.
Or, are you recording?
It's my favorite. It's my favorite things. And if you're trying to edit that, just forget about it.
Yeah.
Forget about it. But yeah, the biggest issues in live streaming. I'm actually really excited about this because there's a lot.
There are a lot. It's not like we make live streaming look so seamless because we're so cool here, but you cannot control your audience all the time.
No.
It's like when you're watching an NFL game and they just cut to the stands because someone is running across field that shouldn't be there. Like, that's my favorite is when all of a sudden we're just like looking at fans for like 5 minutes. So like,
yes, I was actually at an NFL game where that actually happened.
Oh.
I forget what year it was, but it was like the Falcons versus Philly, and some dude jumped over the railing and was running across the field, and they had like cut all the cameras. All the security people were like freaking out. It was awesome. It's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah,
but
we unfortunately cannot just cut in the middle of a worship service or a high school game to just pause things. Unfortunately, don't have that network power, but the other issues we're talking about are probably more in line with things that you will encounter and could fix because
while you're live streaming,
because they're annoying. They're annoying.
I actually like that term, annoying. We're gonna use that from now on, annoying.
They're annoying, but there are solutions.
That was your Ohio coming out, wasn't it?
Yeah, and then we'll just blame that.
Yeah, we'll just blame Ohio for it. Thank you, Ohio.
Yeah, Yins will also probably come out at some point.
Yins.
I'm on the side of Ohio where Yins is something that was told to me all the time as a child.
The Pittsburgh, Philadelphia side.
Yeah.
I'm from Ohio as well, but like I lived in Pittsburgh, Philly for a long time, and it's always use.
Use? Yeah, we get Yins get in for dinner.
Yeah, and it's what's Yous doing today? So like, well, let's talk about some of these issues because I feel like they're imperative for live streaming, but also we're here to help you guys like kind of wade through that. No pun intended, Wade. And we're trying to like literally every live streaming person on the face of the planet encounters someone or something in this nature. So what do you got for me?
I think number one, biggest issue hands down. Like bigger than the baby and the guy blocking the camera, copyright issues.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Copyright issues on YouTube and Facebook, whether that's pre-roll video, whether that's music, someone is getting flagged regardless.
All the time. Yeah, I have that problem almost weekly. And I can tell you the copyright problem. Like, I mean. It's a big issue because you think that in the beginning you have everything you need to stream. You got the camera, right? And then you've got every piece of equipment, the encoder or the people, you got the staff helping you, right, whatever. But then what happens is you go about live streaming and you're like, well, I think this song would be awesome to play at the beginning. And then all of a sudden Facebook sends you that notification that your video has been flagged and removed.
They're like,
They're like,
it's the X on Family Feud, not an answer.
BMG Music or Sony Entertainment or something. You showed that 30-second clip of Spider-Man just making his way across New York City skylines, and they flag you for it.
Yep.
And I can tell you that there's a couple of big reasons for that.
Okay.
So the first big reason is that you're using a master track of your audio.
Yep.
So your first big reason is really more related to the fact that you're using audio that's already been mastered and down, and those tracks are automatically going to be flagged because there's algorithms built into YouTube and Facebook and other social media platforms that will flag that for copyright infringement, or they'll flag it for monetization use because you're using that.
Right.
YouTube is really big on that monetization use thing.
Yes.
Facebook, not so much. Facebook says, oh, hey, you're using this copyrighted music. We're going to literally take your stream off. Now, that doesn't mean that you're not streaming to Facebook. Just means that they've stopped it from being viewed by others on Facebook. So there's a big difference, because I think with BoxCast, like the technical support team, that's one of the biggest things that they encounter is they see that Facebook's not working, quotations, right? But it is. It's just Facebook stops you. So every time you live stream and you're using some sort of like copyrighted or master track, it's because of the reason that those algorithms are picking that up.
Yep.
So ways to fix that. Stop using copyrighted music.
Number one, there are so many royalty-free websites you can go to.
For sure.
So many. I'm sure Josh and Wade can plop up a list of all the ones that we have that we use here.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the ones that we use here because they're really, really good. And yes, quite honestly, you're going to pay for, like if you were going to pay for a service, you're going to get really good quality stuff. Yes. But stop using copyrighted music. At the very least, stop using mastered tracks, right? Use tracks that don't have vocals that aren't mastered by like BMG Music or Sony Entertainment or something like that. Use tracks that are, what we do in my church is we oftentimes will practice a full song without stopping. We'll record that song, and then we use that in playback for our opening of our morning services online, because it's not considered master track. So you're not going to get copyright flagging.
However, you did not write that song. So how do you get around the idea that you didn't just copyright
That's
the
a good
like,
question.
Yeah, know.
Great question. So the cool thing about that is that there are services out there. One is called CCLI, and you can purchase the licensures for a year to be able to host that music, download that music, the actual printed version or written version of the music, and perform that music. And that includes performing that music through your live stream.
Oh, okay.
Right.
I mean, that's a big like secret. Like people probably don't know that that's like what you got to do.
Right. Because Facebook and YouTube don't really care if you've purchased a CCL license.
They have no qualms. They don't care.
They don't care if you've put that on your Facebook page or in your description notes, or if you've emailed them a million times. They don't care. They're more out there to make sure that they're covering themselves, and they're not going to get that. So with copyright issues, I think that's probably one of the biggest ones we encounter is copyright problems, and it's related to that music. So again, stop using copyrighted music. It's going to help you. If you do want to do your own thing, get a copy license like CCLI or something in that nature. There's 3 or 4 of them out there. I don't know them all off by hand, but it's easy.
Yes. Second big issue. We're going to talk about it. The pixel video. Choppy video, not looking seamless and flawless, but it's very
like Danielle over here.
Yes, seamless and flawless, but it's grainy, it's pixel, it's choppy, like my voice is not matching my mouth anymore because it's
out of sync ones.
Yeah, out of sync. How do we fix that?
Yeah, that's a common thing, and that's what I like to call the 8-bit or 16-bit problem, because it looks like you're part of Nintendo at the old day. Not a sponsor, by the way. And yeah, because you're like right, and then your finger is like this block, like you're in Minecraft. It's weird. But yeah, so common things that occur with, let's say, pixelated artifact audio, choppy video. One of the biggest issues is frame rate inconsistency. Okay. So when we talk frame rates, and again, I'm not the biggest production dude, but these are easy concepts that everybody should know when they're live streaming.
Right.
So frame rates, for everybody out there in podcast world, frame rates are important because that's how many snapshots that camera is taking of the content you're using. So if it's 30 or 60, you probably have seen like 120 or 240. 120, 240 are awesome for slow-mo because it's so many, and then you can just play it back really slow. But frame rate inconsistencies usually happen in live streaming where you're not sending the same consistent frame rate to wherever you're streaming through.
Right.
So like for BoxCast, it would be that inconsistency that we're looking for 30 frames, but you're sending us 24, 26, 29, and they're bouncing. So you'll start seeing choppy video, and pixelation occurs in that as well. A lot of times, artifacting. Have you seen artifacting? Like, I'm not talking like Egyptian artifacts. I'm like,
no, I have not. I haven't seen either. So educate me
Our
viewers.
So Josh and Wade are probably going to be able to put up an example of artifacting for us. But that happens in a couple of different realms. That actually happens with either your encoder and your internet, or combination of the two, or one or the other.
Okay. Break it down.
So in the artifacting world, it means the data isn't getting to us, but it's either getting to us late or it's missing chunks. And so the encoding systems and the back-end protocols that we use or whatever, or any live streaming platform, they have to piece that all together, right? And so they have to like figure it out. So like imagine taking a giant puzzle of my face, all right, and you're plucking, you're missing like 15 or 16 pieces. You can still see a majority of the picture, but that artifacting occurs because you're not getting the whole picture. So that means that we're not getting all the data, and that can happen because of your encoder. It's not sending a consistent rate of information, and more than likely it's probably your internet. Like your bandwidth is just not capable of handling that much data.
Yeah, if you're on like a guest Wi-Fi, you're probably not doing as well as the secure network.
Oh, if you're visiting a Hilton hotel and they put you on your guest network and you're trying to watch that.
Yeah, you're trying to stream Netflix and you're like not going anywhere.
Dude, listen, Hilton, get your act together, okay? So that's another big issue. It's like choppy video is all of those things play heavily into that. Big issues, especially if you're trying to like live stream sports.
Yes.
Like, you want that.
Fast movement.
Yeah.
You don't want to miss a piece of the action. Like obviously us talking, if we missed, one or two small things, you may or may not notice. But if I'm running and throwing and Gary's throwing football to me, like you want to make sure you see it all. I'm clearly not the quarterback in this
I just
situation
threw the football
for a
to her
reason.
and she didn't catch it, guys.
Oh, sorry. But okay. We're moving on to the next one. Keeping this interesting. First off, what is your favorite snack?
Okay.
This is important. This is not just random questioning. This is important to the next topic.
You're probably all expecting me to say something like, I don't know, carrots, right? Or like zucchini or...
Love zucchini.
We're going to get a new host. No, I'm just kidding. Cheetos. I love Cheetos, and more importantly, I love Cheeto dust.
Okay. But why do you love Cheetos? What aspect makes it?
So every bag of Cheetos has like that one overcooked Cheeto. And I'm sorry, but that crunch from that one overcooked Cheeto is delectable. I love it. It's the oddest thing. People like steak and filet mignon, and they like all kinds of really cool things like decadent desserts or whatever. But for me, it's that one overcooked Cheeto I cannot get away from. Like a bag of Cheetos is my downfall. It's my snack sin.
All right.
You?
Two. I have two.
One, you can't do that to me.
Yeah,
well, maybe I have two because it's Cheeto and then the dust.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
fair
you've
enough.
got two. My first one, I love like a crisp potato chip. Just the like fresh, open the bag, you smell it. You got like just plain Lay's. That's all I want. Just a plain potato chip.
No ruffle, no wavy.
I mean, I like those too, but like there's something about it. Just a plain Lay's that just like hits the spot. Plain Lay's.
I like that.
Yeah. Second, though, a fresh, crisp, crunchy apple. The little noise you get when you bite into that, love it. And now you're probably like, okay, Danielle, why did you ask this question? Because we're going to talk about crunchy audio.
Crunchy audio.
Yes.
Arr, arr, arr.
The idea is that your audio does not match anymore. You're talking and then all of a sudden you just lose. So, Gary, how do you solve that issue?
I solve that issue by... And that's how I solve world hunger.
Just kidding, guys. Our audio isn't crunchy because we have a really great team, but that's what you would get. So really, though, how do we solve crunchy audio?
Yeah, so crunchy audio is an audible sound as well, right? And then you have the part of the crunchy that comes with it is the desyncing or missing audio altogether. So with the distorted crunchy audio, that usually happens with a couple of different things. So one is if you're hearing like this really high-end clipping sound, like it sounds like the microphone's overloaded with audio and you can't hear it correctly, or you hear it, but it sounds like somebody's like cutting the top off of it. Like, like a fine ice cream cone is just getting right off the top.
That's a nightmare.
Yeah, it is. That's literally a distorted, crunchy sound, and that's called clipping. So there's really only one real way to fix clipping, guys. And this is also for, our awesome producers, Josh and Wade. Gain reduction. Bring it down a little, okay? Like, I can't stress that enough. Clipping and crunchy audio, distorted audio, if you're clipping the audio like it's too much, bring it down a little. And that means that you're not having what's called headroom. And we've talked about this in previous episodes in the first season of the podcast. But that headroom is important because if you have a speaker who gets too loud, you need to be able to to get up there.
That's me.
Sometimes,
I get too loud.
Sometimes Danielle can be really loud, and we still love her. So, but with distorted audio that's not clipping, usually you're looking at something like a limiter or compressor to help bring that audio down. The audio desync, though, is probably the one that you're talking about the most, is the most annoying.
Yes, you can't. It's hard to fix, and
It
you
is.
don't catch it until it's over.
And typically, it's a frame rate problem, believe it or not.
We go back to point 2.
Yeah, it's typically a frame rate issue. Like, we see a lot of people here at BoxCast, and our technical support team sees it too, where they're sending us like 24, 25 frames, but their audio is behind, or sometimes it's even faster. And that can happen with a frame rate issue. Another big problem is, like, if you're using Digital Console, for example, you're sending the audio in delay. Like, I'll give you an example. Maybe you have so many things in between where your audio starts and where your live stream starts. You have so many things in between, it's causing a delay.
Right.
That can help. That can be a major issue with syncing issues in audio as well.
I mean, think about it. If you're in the house and you're trying to yell from upstairs to the basement, there are so many walls that are going to compress that audio that the person in the basement is never going to hear you.
Right. And if they do,
I mean,
it
if
might
they
be
do,
too
it's
late.
going to be like, what? What did you say?
What?
Like, you know, you got to think about these things in like real life. Like, obviously, if there was something between me, the microphone, if there was something here, it's going to sound different if it's not. And then continuing on, like it's just a domino effect. So the more dominoes, the harder it's going to be to get from point A to point B.
I like to say more connections, mo problems, because the mo connections you got, the mo problems you're going to have.
Exactly.
So and incidentally, that's how it works. So if you're getting that desyncing audio issue, you might want to take a look at your setup, your workflow, and see if you can simplify it a little bit. That's a fix.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's also probably a good time for spring cleaning. We're a little past spring, but spring clean that, because you definitely need to clean some things up.
And if you haven't seen the video Josh and Wade did about reorganizing your gear and equipment, definitely check out the link that we have for you below, because that is an awesome video where Josh and Wade, they go through their production stuff and they literally show you how to organize it and clean it out. And there's some things you don't need anymore, so just toss it, get rid of it. So, but yeah, that crunchy audio, I mean, you can hear things like, I think more so it's like, I call it like the newspaper effect, like where you hear static or I don't have anything to do it in here. Maybe they can put it in post for us, but we have, that usually happens like 9 times out of 10. My problem with that is there's static on the line, and it's either because I'm sending some weird signal, or what most people don't know about this is that there's dust or dirt on the connectors.
You mean a little dust bunnies are a
Little
problem?
dust bunny, yeah.
Oh, man.
Quality connectors are great. Like you're running like 24 karat gold connectors out to everything, right? Yeah, it's great. It's 4K Ethernet PoE switchable. It's great. Yes, it's awesome. That's fantastic. Those are great cables to get, especially if you paid $100 for one on Amazon. But more importantly, it's making sure that your connections are cleaned off and like they're not dirty. And
I mean, how did you fix the old Nintendo 64? You took it out and you blew on the cartridge and you put it back in, because obviously there was dust in it. That's literally what that meant.
I cannot tell you how many times I did that, and it was like magic.
It is. It's like tricking a child into eating hot food. You just blow on it and they're like, oh, okay, it's cold now. Done.
Oh, that's how you tricked your child into the... Okay, well, we're talking about tricks now. Okay. All right, moving on. So yeah, when we talk about like crunchy or desynced audios, there's major common issues, but they're really simple fixes. So you want to make sure you do that. So yeah, with all of those different little issues, there's a couple of other ones I think we can hit here real quick.
Okay, last one is a big one. Your internet connection. You have to, you have to have good internet connection to have a good live stream.
Take a step back. In order to live stream, you have to have internet.
You got to have internet. You don't have internet, you're out. But tell us a little bit more about how we can solve that. You've seen a lot of examples. I'm sure you've encountered it personally.
Oh, for sure.
Give us the deets.
I can tell you, I'll give you a quick story. So like our church, right before COVID actually happened, we decided to move to BoxCast. This was probably maybe 6 or 7 months prior, but we moved to BoxCast, and we found that we had some weird internet issues. And I mean, I mean, not like ghosts walking through walls or like, routers all suddenly floating in the middle of the room or anything like that, which would have been really cool.
That would have been more fun.
It would have been fun, yeah. But we found like our internet connection would drop all of a sudden, and we had solid internet. I mean, it was like 100 down and 10 up. It was a decent connection. By the way, when I say that, that's 100 megabits download and 10 megabits upload. Download means you're pulling something from the internet. Upload means you're sending it to the internet, right? Or to another source. But we had this problem where it was also limiting the amount of bandwidth we were getting somehow. And it was just awful. So we did a whole rework. And I'm not saying that you have to do that, okay? I'm not saying that at all. But maybe you should. But we did this whole rework. Like, we moved to a semi-managed system. We ran one line from our modem to a managed switch. And we did all this work, putting in, Wi-Fi routers, access points, made sure everything was equal. And then we had bandwidth control. So we dedicated a bunch of bandwidth to our internet streaming alone. We limited the guest network, much like other places do.
Right.
And instantly our connection statuses were 10 times better. Like, our streams were 10 times better because of the fact that we had dedicated bandwidth specifically to our encoder on our network. So when we talk about internet, there's some... I like to call them speed bumps. They're definitely achievable. Like, you can overcome them easily.
Yes.
Right? I mean...
Oh, yeah. You just got to know the problem.
Right. You got to... Well...
A little bit. That's the big thing. You got to investigate, figure it out and then problem solve.
And it's going to take a little bit of money depending on your setup, right? Depending on what you're doing. But in turn, these are the three things that I would say are biggest common denominators, right? Wi-Fi connection versus hardwire, okay? If you have a connection type that you're streaming with. Wi-Fi is awful for live streaming. I'm just going to say it. I don't care what Facebook says. Use Facebook Live, whatever, over your phone. Your wireless signal is garbage 9 times out of 10. Unless you have like the most overpowered, unless you got Hulk running your network, okay? Your Bruce Banner's running your network. Hardwire connection is always better.
Right.
So hardwire that bad boy whenever you're doing it. Whether it's an encoder or a computer, do it. It doesn't make a difference. The second is firewall. Nobody knows what a firewall is. Nobody knows what it is. But when we say it, it's like, what's that do? Well, firewalls are designed for privacy and security. So it's to keep outbound people getting into your network, right?
Yes, hackers.
But that also means it's because it's a door. It means
it's locked.
It's locked.
You're
also having problems going connections outbound to the internet. So some schools do that, like they restrict the things that can be seen or ports or
oh yeah, like blocking like Facebook and social media so you're not distracted.
Netflix, YouTube's, whatever. So they block those ports specifically because they don't want the traffic going out. So firewalls can do that. Firewalls can have a big problem. So if you're just like setting up your basic network and you have a firewall installed that's just comes with the router, you're going to have to do a little research to figure out how to get that firewall fixed so you can push that network port through. And that's a big one. That's a lot of times that happens with some streamers that we face here at BoxCast who are like doing high school sports and they're on school's network.
Yep.
Big issue.
Yeah.
Right. The last piece, the idea, the last part of this is definitely your internet and network speed. Danielle, I'm going to tell you there are two different things.
Okay. Lay them on me.
Okay.
Let's go.
So when we think network speed,
number one, network speed.
That's your internal network.
Okay.
Right? When we think internet speed,
number two, internet speed.
That's your external network.
All right.
So internal network, external network. Internal networks would be like, I'm not going to tell you what my Wi-Fi name is, but like Big Trucking 101 would be a network name maybe, or BoxCast, Guest, or whatever, right? Whatever your network name is for wireless or for whatever your network is, that's internal. That's localized to you.
Yes.
And what you don't realize is that internet connection is actually divided up. So your network is trying to give out bandwidth to every device connected, and it's trying to do it equally. So if your internal bandwidth is low or you have too many connections, right, we actually call that an oversaturation or overuse, or network utilization is the technical term.
I mean, yeah, if you've ever connected to a guest Wi-Fi somewhere and you're like, wow, this is worse than just trying to get the 5G to load.
Or my 2 bars on my cellular, right?
Right.
Right, exactly.
You've been there and you're like, oh, Wi-Fi.
Yay.
Whole Foods is an example. I try to load my Whole Foods like coupons, but Amazon app doesn't work and their Wi-Fi just doesn't let me get in there because everyone else is trying to do it.
You
It's
probably
like,
have a bandwidth problem, right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
All right, Whole Foods, I'm coming for you. Got to fix your bandwidth.
So you can't get we're coming for you, Amazon. But you can't get that data to download on your device, right? So that's an internal network issue. It's called overutilization. And that happens when there's too many devices. And then you have your external network, which is the internet in itself. And if that speed is not appropriate, then it's not going to help with live streaming because then you don't have enough bandwidth outbound that your ISP, internet service provider, is telling you that you have. So commonly, like most common internets are like 100 down, 10 up, right? And for this particular, case, I will give you a recommendation.
Okay.
All right? Bandwidth recommendation. This is how you fix this. Bandwidth recommendation is you should have double the amount of bandwidth available in your internal and external networks. Okay? So your internal network and your internet connection speed should be double the amount that you're trying to stream. And I'll give you an example. We try to stream on our BoxCasters. They can handle 5 megabits out, right? So if you need 5 megabits out, you should double it to 10. You should have at least 10.
At least.
At least. So a lot of connections could be you need 20. Our BoxCaster Pro can handle 18. So you're going to look at least 36.
Right.
So, just make sure you're in that realm. So recommended speeds, I would say, are definitely anything 10 megabits or faster or up. That's your recommended upload speed. And your download speed, we don't really care. But
it doesn't matter at this point.
Yeah.
We're trying to upload to the internet to get it out to you guys.
But I think with these common issues that we've touched on today, these are the biggest ones. And we've given you some really quick hits and tips to try to fix those. And of course, if you're a BoxCast subscriber, please reach out to our technical support team.
Yes, they're so good.
Yeah, they're more than happy to help you and get kind of the same basic information ready and try to push you in the direction you need to go.
Yes,
but
they will help you.
I say those are the biggest complaints with live streaming right now.
Okay. If you had one tip to give for all of the things we talked about, what would it be?
I'm glad you prefaced with all the things we talked about because as soon as you said that, I was like, don't eat yellow snow. That was the first thing I was going to say.
That's also a good tip, but not what we're talking about now.
Yeah, I know. Well, always a good tip, I guess. But the one tip that I would give for right now in this space would be just to make sure that you're using quality versus like cheap. Right? Sometimes cheap is good quality and sometimes cheap is not. So connections, camera systems, audio, internet, like just make sure it's quality. And you're probably like, well, how do we make sure it's quality? Well, that's a good question. I would say check a review. Like if reviews don't tell you that somebody has a problem with it, then look at the questions.
Yeah. Or if you follow people who live stream, ask them what their setup are. They're probably more excited that you want to talk to them about this stuff than anything.
Reach out.
Reach out and be like, hey, I saw this live stream. It was really good. Can you just give me some insights on what equipment you're using?
Yeah, for sure.
Because the best recommendations are ones that people are using.
Absolutely.
They're going to tell you what they've done. They're going to tell you ones they did not like.
And what's working well and what's not.
Yeah. And to that point, they'll be able to tell you kind of the setup, which then goes back to point, I think 2 is just having clean setups. If they've mastered this, they have that.
Yeah.
They're ready to go.
It doesn't mean you have to replicate it.
No.
It just means that you have a good idea of what would work well, and maybe you can offshoot that. I will give you another tip. This is a bonus tip. Our producer, Wade, gave me this tip one time. I was looking for some lighting equipment for some things we were doing, and he goes, bro, take the name of the equipment and go search on YouTube and see if somebody did a review of it.
Yes. I love YouTube reviews for everything.
And I was like, why have I never thought of this before? So yeah, seriously, go take the YouTube clips, go look at the YouTube reviews of the equipment you're searching for. I would say probably 90% of people look on Amazon first and be like, well, maybe I can find it there, right?
Yeah, and Amazon can be hit or miss, especially if they've got multiple products in one listing, because you don't know which one people are giving a 1-star rating to. I just had to do that for a new toaster. I was like, I want this toaster, but I went to YouTube and was like, what are the real reviews of this toaster?
Wow, toasters.
Toasters, because that's what you gotta buy it in an adulthood life. You gotta buy a new toaster. Can't have my $8 toaster from Walmart anymore. It's still working, by the way. It just doesn't fit our bread size anymore because now we're healthy people and we have to eat.
I will say, bread. I think that we're going to end with that because this podcast has definitely been toasted.
And with that, thank you for watching. Absolutely. We're so excited that you guys are here. We've got more coming up within the season, so please subscribe to our YouTube and follow us on all of our rest of our social channels.
Absolutely.
But until then, I'm Danielle.
And I'm Gary, and this is the BoxCast podcast.
Thanks for watching.